Well, hey, everybody. I am back here with another KOIN conversation with my good buddy. We've got Steve Peace.
Hey, peace. All right. Peace out.
Steve Pierce in the booth with me. Sorry to botch your name, Steve.
Oh, no worries.
You're a good guy. Thanks for coming in early.
You bet.
To film this with me. Yeah, and we are going to talk about the midwinter outlook here and what we can expect going into February, and also what we can expect snow-wise, rain-wise, mountain snow-wise. You know, we've had kind of a strange winter so far. It's been very odd here. So we'll kind of go through all of that and talk about what's to come. Steve, what are your thoughts so far in the wintertime? How have you enjoyed December and so far
has there
January?
been a winter yet?
I know.
Kind of feels like my grass is growing. No, actually, that's no joke. My grass is literally growing in January. Your stats pretty much tell the story there. We had a wet December, and then the pipeline just shut off in January.
Yeah, so it was very warm and wet, and not record rainy, but it was certainly record warm.
Yeah.
So that's look at average monthly temperatures taken overnight lows and daytime highs across the entire month of December.
Yeah.
And we ended up around 47.5 degrees, but warmest December on record.
Yep.
And I believe this is coming off of a incredibly warm December last year too. You know, it was it's just incredible. These last couple of years have been both trending this way, at least certainly for January too, where January ended up incredibly dry. So we also had that windstorm, right? We were tracking that windstorm just before Christmas.
Yep.
And do you want to go into
couple of them.
Yeah.
Remember we had that surprise one, I think it was the morning of the 17th of December.
That one was odd, and then we had the
westerly wind,
potential once-in-a-decade type windstorm coming just before Christmas.
Yeah,
so
models were all over that one. That was a nail-biter. You and I were talking about it before, actually during and just before it. We had some vacations in there, so we had some staffing changes. And we're all trying to stay on top of it. I had a feeling, though, the night before, once the Euro really honed in on, I mean, that's my go-to model, typically.
Yeah.
Once that kind of brought that low, just inland, right up the coast, basically up the crest of the coast range, I knew it was game over at that point.
Yeah, it kind of like ripped apart any pressure gradients. But that was so scary to see because it was the week of Christmas. Yeah. And there was a non-zero chance, 3 to 4 days out, of this being a once-in-a-decade storm where there would maybe not be any power for folks going into Christmas this year. So that was such a busy week tracking that. And really the day of or just before, the night before, was when folks were like, this is probably not going to be a windstorm, thankfully.
I love a big windstorm, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's one of my top 3 things here in the Northwest. But on Christmas Eve, I'm kind of glad it didn't hit.
Yeah.
Everybody had plans, and last thing you want is no power.
Never
on Christmas
fun
Eve.
During an important part of the year.
Yeah.
What about the rain, though? So what was so interesting was not just Oregon, but Washington and California were hit by some very strong atmospheric rivers, kind of all in a row. The first round was up in Washington, where there was historic flooding, major damage out in the foothills and some of those highways out there. And then Oregon had our turn, and we saw the Clackamas rising so high that we had some parks, even dumpsters, underwater, floating in the water. It was just some incredible visuals out there. And then I think near Christmas, the week after, it was down in California. Yeah. And they were dealing with torrential rain and damage. What are your thoughts on atmospheric rivers this time of the year?
Well, I can tell you, specifically just with December being the wettest month, I believe, since January of 2024, so almost 2 years. Like I say, they're 8.51 inches. And that atmospheric river just sort of undulated. The subtropical jet stream moved up and down the west coast during that month, and of course replaced by a huge ridge in January. So I've seen this before. It's not atypical to have this happen, but we always say in La Niñas, or even slightly La Niñas, which we are this year. I haven't checked the latest numbers, but I think we're still there, maybe trending more neutral now. We'll tend to see big shifts from, week to week, even every 2 weeks in the pattern. So a lot of this, not really surprising in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think this is We can see atmospheric rivers at all point in the year.
Yeah,
but they tend to happen, kind of in the stormier seasons.
Yeah, winter months.
It's just been so interesting looking at January so far. These are some of the numbers there. We don't have any significant stats right now for temperatures. 37th warmest. Who cares about that number? In terms of rain, though, we were nearly at a record dry stretch. That actually broke the record for dry stretch for no rain, not a trace, not a drop was, I believe it was 13 days.
Yeah,
and
correct.
we saw a trace amount last week, so that wrecked that record. But we are kind of nearing the record stretch of consecutive dry days that includes a trace. So still no measurable rain, but a trace amount. We're at recording this on Monday. This will air on Wednesday. We are at day 14. Today's likely day 15. And
correct.
then we'll likely end that right there. So not quite getting that record, but we just have not seen the rain. And what's funny is I actually forgot that last year our January was a record dry January.
I reminded you of that.
Yeah, I was like, no way. It's tough for me to remember back a full year, but that's where we were. It was very similar. We saw a huge ridge that blocked out storms and
second half of the month.
Yeah, and we're now the 9th driest on record so far. That'll probably change with the rain on the way this coming week, but incredible. Can you kind of talk about why ridge patterns tend to keep us dry? Like what is going on in the atmosphere?
Yeah, we started to see this pattern take shape. The first about 5-6 days of January were pretty wet. We thought, we're starting out wet, above average for the month of January, and then boy, it's just where the ridge set up. It set up right over the West Coast, and it was abnormally strong. And, as of today, still there, but now it's starting to break down. It's starting to move off to the east this week. Finally, we get a westerly flow, but that big ridge over the West Coast is responsible for all of the East Coast cold as well, as it digs a trough on the backside of that ridge of high pressure. So it's just more of an amplified pattern in a slightly La Nina year. So that part doesn't surprise me. It's just where it sets up shop. I want to go back to one thing you said, though, about how similar this dry spell is in timing to last year when we saw 18 days, and that's 0.01 or more, now excluding traces. Boy, we're mirroring that right now. So I'm hopeful, and I know it's one of your other items you want to talk about in a bit, what that might lead to maybe in February, because we know we got snow last February.
Is this whole year just a repeat of last year?
It could
Is
be.
that what you're saying?
I'd have to go back and look at December of 2024, though. I can't remember
to
how
see
much
if
rain.
that lined up.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm an analog guy, so I like to look at analog years. But I can tell you, this is the weirdest acting La Nina or slightly La Nina I can remember.
I wonder if it being a weaker La Nina has something to do with it.
Could be.
It really is hard to say. And sometimes I get a little flustered on the whole tying it to La Nina, El Nino, and just the Enso pattern, because still people don't really know. We see these trends in La Nina winters where we tend to see more rain, we tend to be colder, but that's not always the case. And this has kind of been one of those examples where it's been really anomalous and different.
Especially the mountain snowpack. I mean, that's all tied to that ridge of high pressure, of course.
Really tough to see the mountain snowpack too. But I do hope you're wrong about the February snow in Portland. And yes, we will talk more about some of that snow.
Big tease.
And those chances in just a moment. But we'll see where we end up rain-wise. It again looks like we will again wrap up this week with some rain. But here's a peek at February stats. So our last technical month of
meteorological winter.
Highs in the low 50s. So we do start to uptick our daytime highs. Which is kind of nice. But snowfall, we tend to see 1.2 inches of snow. And this is our 5th wettest month of the year at just over 3.5 inches of rain. So, last year in the middle of it, right around, Valentine's Day that weekend, the 13th through the 15th, we got quick round of snow, little bit of ice, and then more snow. And it was, I remember it was a very well forecast system. It was pretty easy to forecast this one, where that line of icing and snow would be and how much snow. And I was very thankful for that.
Makes our job easier.
It makes our job easier when we nail the forecast, which is what we did last year.
Proudly so.
What's funny is that I have stayed in a hotel by our station every single year for the last 5 years.
Holy smokes.
I wonder if this year will be that year where I don't stay in a hotel due to snow and having to come into work. And KOIN is so kind to put every worker up in a hotel room so we can get into work safely. So we'll see what happens this year. February snow. Oh, I don't know.
How's continental breakfast? Pretty good?
They don't actually offer it.
I know.
But if they did, I would be there. There is room service that we get. So that's been super nice.
I'm going to start staying in the hotel more often.
I recommend it on KOIN's dime. Thank you, KOIN.
One thing I want to point out about this graphic, I think is interesting, and we've talked about this before. We have trended to see more. I don't remember the last big January or December snow event. I mean, just off the top of my head, but we've now had 3 significant snow events in the month of February, which didn't happen for like 15 to 20 years, from the 90s through the 2000s. And then all of a sudden we just sort of flipped the switch. And now we're getting snowstorms later in February. 2022, 2020, big one, 2021. That was a major ice storm south of Portland.
Yes, I remember that.
It was on a Saturday night. And then Sunday was Valentine's Day, 2021. Big snow in Clark County and points north of the Columbia River. And then we had it again, was that February 2023? And now last year, February as well. So kind of an interesting pattern to see how things change.
If I can pull up this graphic to show some of that. Yeah, so this is looking at snowfall in Portland the last 10 years.
Yep.
And 2021, that February was unreal.
Yep.
That's the day or the season that I skied in downtown Portland.
I think we got video of that somewhere.
Yeah, we'll have to share that. But looking at last year, we saw 3 inches.
Yep.
And wasn't last year La Nina as well?
It barely, I'm not sure that it technically made it there, but the pattern acted very La Nina.
Yeah. So it is hard to say about snowfall. I mean, looking at last year and that trend, if it is an analog year, a year that we can compare to with its characteristics, then maybe, sometime in February. But you're right. It really, I think we got some icing. What was it, 2 winters ago? Was that 2023, 24?
2023, it was February 2023.
Oh, okay,
I believe.
Yeah, where we had that major icing and the frigid cold. That was in mid-January. So it wasn't quite a snow event, but it was the icing, which is even more impactful.
I remember that, a lot of east wind. Notice also 10 straight years in a row of measurable. You take out the 2014-15 because that's not. And 2019-20 was, 0.5. But point being, that's the longest in recorded history, at least at the Portland airport, back to 1940. Consecutive snow winters at 10.
Yeah.
Is this the 11th, or do we break it for a year or two and kind of put a pause on?
I've been saying we've been overdue for a quiet winter.
I agreed. Agreed.
If this is the one, I'm not upset at that. And I wonder where we will end up there.
Maybe no room service this year.
No free delicious food from the Porter Hotel.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a plug.
Check this out. Precipitation outlook going into.
Oh, I haven't seen this yet.
Yeah, 8 to 14 days. So look at the U.S. You can see that much of the U.S. is actually drier. Pretty incredible. Maybe down south, Texas, Southwest, Desert Southwest gets a little more rain. Maybe some active subtropical jet there, but. This is us, then the PNW.
Yeah. Did that just get issued?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
Pretty dry. So it does look like this weekend we see that rain, but it might be as we head into those first few days, that first week of February, it's right back under maybe a ridge again. I don't know. So the darker tan colors doesn't show how dry or how much below normal, just the likelihood. So the darker is more likely that we are.
Looks like a ridge of high pressure right over the Great Basin.
It does look like a ridge of high pressure.
That's kind of what it looks like.
Let's take a look at temperatures too. Look at that. So same time span. This is 2 weeks from now, looking at the 8 to 14-day outlook.
Yeah.
So much warmer. And again, this does not show the intensity of the warming. It could be a half a degree to a degree, but the likelihood that we are warmer is there. Much colder for the eastern U.S., but boy.
A lot of red.
Lot of red. So
All the way to the 8th.
this, I mean, for someone who doesn't really want snow to arrive in Portland this year, this is a good sign.
Yeah.
I'm super happy about this.
It's the kind of map you want to see.
I know. But yeah, I really wonder if this could be our quiet
Could. Like to see more snow in the mountains, though.
That is true.
It's huge.
And we should get into that here. Yep. It's just been abysmal, really, really tough. There's the ski report. This is from the early morning on Monday. Yep. And yeah, we're down to 3 feet of snow.
Yeah. Wow.
And looking at records, we should be around 9 feet.
Yeah, correct.
So
about 100 inches or so, a little under 100?
Yeah, a little under 100. And,
wow.
And we are at about a third of what we should be seeing at this point in winter time. And it's, I mean, people are getting up there to go ski. I'm not sure if there are some routes that are, closed off because there's just such thin snowpack. But it's been so tough. I was so hopeful after we got, 2 feet at the start of the month, right? And then
4 feet.
Yeah, 4 feet, 2 to 4 feet, and then it just shut down.
Sure did.
So it kind of felt like spring skiing. I was able to get up there 2 weeks ago, a few days after that big dumping that we got, and it was pretty cool. It was so warm up there. It was like spring skiing.
Yeah.
In January.
Yikes.
I know. Really not what we want to see.
My son has a pass, and he hasn't used it once yet.
A lot of people losing out this year on that.
A lot of money.
Those are like $1,000.
Yeah, adult ones are about $1,300.
My goodness.
You can get the student ones if you're under age 19, I think, for like $800.
Oh my goodness.
$800 or $900, but still, I mean,
yeah,
boy,
it's been so tough, and just looking at some of these numbers. Let me try and pull this bigger. I think you can see that. Mm-hmm. It's the snow water equivalent. So if you take all of the snow, the inches of snowfall up there and melt it down, how much water is there?
Yep.
And right now we're at about 10 inches of water.
And that's the black line.
And that's the black line. So our current year's black line. There's two other blue lines on that map that are 2015 and 2005. And they're on there because they've got a very similar path and, measure compared to this year.
And those were both El Niños.
Not La Niñas.
Totally different than this year. Mm-hmm. By the way, big plug, Kelly and I co-authored a nice article on KOIN.com. Go check it out. All about this.
Yeah, and what it means and what to look forward to. The green line is, of course, the average of all the years. I believe this goes back to, 1950? Or 1980?
This Snowtel site came online in 1979.
Okay, so
at least
the 80s.
This site, but some of these other graphs maybe
have way more data.
Maybe back to about 1950. But I know the Snowtel site was 79.
So this is a site, an observation, a weather station on Mount Hood at about 5,300 feet. And is it at Mount Hood Meadows?
It's very close to Mount Hood Meadows.
Okay,
yes.
So this is operated by the USDA and the Snowtel organization. I think NWAC, all of that, and so they are measuring across the winter season, or I guess the water year. From October into the next October. It always starts in October, but this is how much water is up in the mountains if you melt down the snow. Yeah. The green line, we are so below that green line. We are not getting enough snowfall, and it is following that path of those other 2 years in blue. And, if you look at this graph too, looking at the median, and the average there, we still tend to build up snow all the way through May.
Yep.
So we still have so much time this winter and even spring to see some giant cold storms bringing lots of snow. And there have been some years where we've seen that. It's been abysmal to start, and then we get these big storms in the springtime, and that kind of saves the snowpack. But it's so interesting how 2015 and 2005 have the same track.
Yeah.
There was a little uptick into February and March, but barely. Yeah. And then a couple of giant storms. I'm sure people were super happy about that going into April and May.
Yeah.
And then just nothing.
Well, the melt-off starts after
that. So, oh my goodness, it's just kind of scary to see this if we do end up following that path.
April 1's sort of if you look at that graph there, just maybe April 15th or so seems to be the peak on those averages, or on those 2 years.
Peak snow.
And then, the average as well on the snowpack and the snow water equivalent, excuse me.
Yeah. So snow depth in in terms of not melting on the snow, just how many inches. I think we get up to like 120 on average. We're up or somewhere upwards of like 12 or so feet of snow in terms of snow depth. But the snow water equivalent, how much liquids is up there in the snow. We tend to see maybe around 55, 60 inches, and we're at probably a little less than 10.
Yeah. And if we're still dealing with this in, say, about a month from now, say late February, I'm going to be really concerned.
Yeah. What do you think that means for the state?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what it means. This is a perfect graphic right there. Those should all be, here we are, end of January. We should be looking at close to 100% of average in all those basins. And we're dealing with, 30 to 40 on average, if I just took a quick look. Maybe even a little bit less.
Yeah, like look at those basins in the southeast.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess some of these basins don't see as much snow. You got the Wallowas and the Blues. So the Umatilla, Walla Walla Basin, the Grand Ronde, and the Powder Basin, they tend to see good chunks of snow. But really, all of these big basins with big mountains are running like around 30% of normal.
This is big for irrigation needs, especially for farmers in eastern Oregon and north and central Oregon as well, especially the Deschutes Basin, stuff like that. Also, Bull Run. I mean, you got to think about that. That feeds Portland. That's Portland's drinking water.
Yeah.
So there's if we're still looking at this in a month, I'm looking ahead more about what will summer look like and the potential for these fuel moisture contents in the mountains by June and July. Boy, it's going to be tinder dry. And of course, that leads to forest fire season.
I know, and if we see an extra hot summer, that just adds to it. We get more people enjoying time camping, and maybe some people are irresponsible and don't put out their campfires. It's just so concerning. In this part of the U.S. with these numbers and where we're at right now in the wintertime.
Yeah, more people building and living out there nowadays, as well as urban sprawls. So,
is there, a time, you kind of mentioned this, where you would be pushing that panic button with our snow?
March 1st, the first button, and then certainly by mid to late March, it's major problems.
Yeah.
Then.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, even thinking a month from now, if we're still looking at these snow water equivalents of this percentage, say end of February, that's sort of the first button. End of March, that's the big one, the big red one that's flashing at you. And you're going to start to hear a lot more about that coming up if that continues.
Yeah.
And like we say, it can change. But wow, I'm impressed at the size of the ridge of high pressure it's been over the West Coast in the month of January. It was a lot like last year, a little warmer actually, or a little higher heights as we call it. But we'll see. There's still time to change. We could flip the switch.
We could.
That ridge could move up over Alaska. The trough's now off the East Coast, and it's over us. Snow and cold.
Is there any reason that why the ridge set up at this time of the year that we can connect to?
Funny you mention that, because I was going to use the word teleconnections. Everything connects across the globe, and ridges and troughs, all the way across the globe. In the northern hemisphere in the winter, it's just placement of where it's at. It's just luck of the draw for us this year. After 10 snowy winters.
Yeah. So this big ridge, too, it's a pattern we see at all times of the year.
Sure.
And, in the summertime, it tends to be one that brings in record heat and dry conditions. So if this were the summertime right now, I'm so curious how hot we would have gotten.
Well, I know this probably doesn't mean a whole lot to everybody, but the depth, or I should say the strength of the ridge, I think at one point last week was about 595 decimeters. That's way up there. It's a very, very strong area of high pressure. That in the summertime would have been, 105 degree temperatures. Instead, we get inversions in the wintertime where, it's 32 degrees or below down here on the valley floor. And I think it was around 50 at Mount Hood Meadows at one point last week.
Even 60 in the mid-60s, too.
Yeah, and the beaches were beautiful a week ago.
I like to, imagine these ridges as big balloons that if you had a bird's eye view of Oregon, you just stick a big balloon right across or on top of it.
I like that.
And then these storms just are blocked by this shield, this balloon, and it rain can't arrive. So I do love high pressure ridging patterns, though. They're some of my favorite because you can see them coming so far away, and they tend to amplify and just don't move. They can be kind of boring though, and I'm happy.
Have you noticed how excited everybody was though?
Yeah.
Everybody seemed to be in a good mood, even though it was cold. The sunshine.
The seasonal depression out. So before we wrap up, just one more look at February. What are your thoughts? If you had to give an outlook for February in terms of snow, rain, and temperatures, knowing the Climate Prediction Center's outlook too, what are you thinking?
I would say if you didn't even show me that new 8 to 14 day graphic of what they're expecting, I would go with more of the same. You know, a slight turn back to a little westerly flow, a little bit of rain this weekend. It's weak, and that ridge pops right back up. However, the ridge could pop up back off the coast, and then we're in more of a northerly flow and colder. So I don't know. All good things have to come to an end in terms of that ridge that we saw in January. I'd say 50-50. I'd flip a coin as to whether we go cooler and with chance of low elevation snow. Obviously, in the valley, that would be probably second half of the month, you know, at the earliest, the 15th of the month. Boy, though, it's tough. Yeah. I mean, it's not really an answer, but it could stay more the same.
I love to say if we knew these answers, we would be rich. So we don't have these answers, and we still have to keep working. But what are your thoughts on March? You know, looking more so into getting into spring. We have had snow in those years in March or in previous years.
Even had the rare snow in April of 2022.
Yeah.
I think it was the 11th of April. I'm like, what is this? Latest snow ever now on record at the Portland airport. That was very anomalous. So that don't look for that again. But typically, slightly La Nina winters, you would expect to see wet and colder springs. That's sort of the average. So we'll see if this pattern turns around and we get a wet, cold spring. We're out of the snow threat by then. But a lot of rainy, dreary, sort of cold spring days. I remember 2010. This is going way back.
Yeah.
We were having big snowstorms on Mount Hood still in the first week of June.
Yeah.
But that was very rare.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if we do have a wet spring. We'll see, though.
We'll see.
Yeah, lots to think about. You'll have to check back with us later.
Yeah, we'll probably get in another conversation here when we head into spring. But Steve, thank you so much for joining me and chatting about the winter time. I'm sure it's still going to be exciting, maybe drier, maybe wet. We'll keep forecasting it here on KOIN 6. So take care, and we'll chat again soon.